rushed to hospital just before she died, and he started to go downhill suddenly. And so here we were grieving for my mum, but then we went into preparatory grief because we could see that dad was declining, and in fact the doctors didn't give much hope of his survival. So I was grieving for a parent who was passed, and I was grieving in anticipation of a parent who was going to pass. And so subsequently, when they both, when we buried them 7 months apart, there were days when I was crying, and it was just that both griefs had fused together, so I didn't even know who I was crying for at some point. And they had so many griefs, so many deaths. It may be important to ask them, could you just tell me about the first death that you had? Help them to separate them out, because they might say different things about the different deaths and so on. And different things will trigger different memories. So for instance, my mum died on a Sabbath, a bright, sunny August Sabbath. And I was going to try and turn the computer around for you to see the bright sunshine that's coming out. And so for years, Mum's dead now, just over 4 years. We're coming up to 5 years in August. For years, every Sabbath, when the sun was shining, or in fact, every time there's bright sunshine, I would feel so sad. Because I remembered on a bright, glorious Sabbath day, because we were in that hospital for 7 days around her bedside when she was comatose. And the Sabbath, after she died, and the body was, we were sat with her and, just as a family, and just breathed and prayed and so on. And then I stepped outside I hadn't been outside because I hadn't been away from her bedside for 7 days straight. And my sisters and I, we took turns to, at night, one of us would sleep by the bedside, and another one, because we were allowed to stay in the room, and there was an ensuite, bathroom and so on. So, or we would go into the day room and sleep, and then a couple of us and one person would come. So Mum was never alone. So we were in the hospital for 7 days. We never went home at all. And so after 7 days, I went out. It was a strikingly bright. And I remember squinting my eyes because I hadn't been out in the open, and I could hardly see how bright the sun was. And so for years, it took me ages not to feel that deep sense of sadness. When the sun was shining, it was time to be bright. And I had to then turn things around and ask God how to show me how to not be bereaved every time I saw the sunshine, because it was a trigger point for me. But to thank God for the bright sunshine that reminded me of Mum's godly life. And so on. So I was able to turn around that negative memory. So when the person is talking through different, so remember now, if you've had someone come into you, or you've gone to help them, and they've said, oh, I've lost this one, and they named them out, and I don't know where to start, and all the feelings are separated out. All the feelings are all jumbled together. You say, when did the first death happen? Tell me about that first death, and separate it out. And then you'll be able to pick up what triggers them. And so you get them to write down some of the things that trigger them. For me, for Mum, it was the sunshine. And so you would then pray about that. You work with them to pray about that trigger. Now, when Dad died, Friday evenings was terrible, because Dad was in Jamaica, because he had come up to see us and all sorts. And then after Mum died, we had to do his. I'm working hard Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Then when you stop work, it was then coming up to sunset, and sunset was the time, as I said, I used to speak with my dad. And then Friday was the day before the day before Mum died, because she died on the Sabbath. So I had really awful weekends for ages, because Friday reminded me of Dad, and Sabbath reminded me of Mum when she died. And so it may be about getting alongside, listening to the person, what their triggers are. And it's important to help them to separate out those deaths, so they know who they're grieving. Now, let's talk quickly about the bereavement care befriender role. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Now, I need to try and minimize this so I can read my slides. Good. Now, a bereavement care befriender is committed to offering support to church members or other individuals in the community who request their help and who are experiencing bereavement. So what's happened is that I've trained a group of bereavement care befrienders, and so the churches where we did the training, they know who the bereavement care befrienders are. And so if you read what this says, a bereavement care befriender is committed to offering support to church members or other individuals of the community who request their help and who are experiencing bereavement. You don't just rush and tell, advertise yourself, oh, I'm a bereavement care befriender, can I help you? You have to be sensitive about this, because sometimes in our culture, at least the British are a little bit more reserved, and especially the English, the Caucasians, you don't approach them with anything. You wait for them to come to you. So the best thing to do is to let them be aware. Now, in your culture, it might be different. Once people know you're a bereavement care befriender, you may, it depends on your culture, you may put in the bulletin, the church bulletin, we've trained some bereavement care befrienders and these are their names. So that's one way of doing it. So you can actually put your name out there, but don't rush into people's grief. Wait to be requested to have that help. If you know the person very, very well, or if it's family or friends or church members, and you've had a relationship with them, or you have a friendship, say, or connection with them, you can say, I'm here to talk, I'm here to speak with you at any time, or, we can just share, go for a walk, or, if you need someone to listen to, or someone to talk to, or a listening ear, I'm here. So again, it's being aware, but generally, if the person is unknown to you, it's best not to go and rush and advertise yourself with them unless you know them very well. Now, a bereavement care befriender demonstrates support through listening. So this is not reading a whole book on grief and bereavement so you can reel off all the terminologies. A bereavement care befriender demonstrates support through listening. And so in the training, we do active listening exercises. We look at how to listen and then paraphrase. And so when you're listening, you at intervals, various intervals, you'll pause and you'll say, so what I hear you saying is, so if a person's been talking for 10 minutes or whatever, you try not to interrupt, you let the person talk. And